rebuild that? A lot of people have very high hopes, you might even call them wishes, that technology in parentheses or quotation marks, is going to come to the rescue and solve these energy problems we have and actually allow us to continue running our stuff the way we're running it. Probably not. My own opinion, no combination of alternative energy systems is going to allow us to run North America the way we've been used to running it, or even a substantial fraction of it. A lot of the Google guys got up and they said, "Oh, dude, you're wrong. We've got technology." And so it was interesting to see at their level, which is a level of, great accomplishment and indeed of great, reward and wealth, that, I think they're completely delusional about it, that just because they can move pixels around a screen means that they can, run the interstate highway system on biodiesel. I don't really think that that's going to pencil out. So, we're basically going to have to really reform and reorganize all of our daily activities, and it is not going to be a simple transition. A lot of people who talk about this stuff seem to assume that it's a given that there'll be an easy transition, a gentle segue from the state that we're at now to the state that we're entering. And I think, if anything, that's probably the most erroneous assumption that you can make, that it's probably going to be very turbulent and fraught with hardship and loss, and that there will be a lot of losers produced by this this period of time. That implies that we're going to need to know how to do engineering on a small scale, on a local scale, on a doable scale, on using materials that are common and still available, and technologies that are not too high. And that kind of engineering, which is probably on the level of engineering in the U.S. of circa 1879, that kind of mechanical knowledge in itself is going to be very valuable. And I have no idea how much of it we may have lost. Say that the industrial experience was a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. It was a narrative. It wasn't just something that is established and then goes on forever. And I think that's one of the great misunderstandings about what we're involved in, that that demoralization continues in the hyper ironies of the early 21st century. And the idea that, all of these funny things that are happening to us are just cute. It isn't really cute anymore. And one of the interesting things that we're going to see as we move into the long emergency, as I call it, to this era of hardship and turbulence, is that people are going to have to get very serious about stuff and very earnest. They're going to have to take stuff, really, really seriously and make shit happen. You can't just sit back and say, "Oh, isn't that cute?" The way I deconstructed that little line over there. They're going to have to make buildings stand up, not look like they're falling down just for the fun of making them look that way. Because, we're not going to have access to things like computer-aided design and titanium cladding and spray-on styrofoam and, all the materials that we've been enjoying. The whole housing bubble is going to be affected by the hurricanes because the hurricanes knocked out a lot of natural gas production, and natural gas now costs a lot more. And all the builders out in Minneapolis and Denver are sitting there with 4,000 square foot houses that they can't sell because nobody wants to buy a 4,000 square foot house with natural gas selling at $17 a unit, And so those houses are going unsold, and the mortgages that would have been generated for those houses are not being generated. So there's less hallucinated credit being funneled into the global finance system. So all these things are ramifying with each other. And, from the point we're sitting at now, and, 2 weeks before Christmas, we can't see how these things are exactly going to play out, but we have reason to believe that weird things are going to happen. The housing bubble will be over, and people will be crushed by their heating bills. And a lot of people are going to be selling 4,000 square foot houses that they can't afford to heat anymore, or at least they can't afford to pay the mortgage and heat them both. Okay, and all these houses are going to go on the market, and the whole housing bubble is going to be over. Well, that has other implications. It also happens that we have created in the United States an economy that is now largely dependent on the activity of suburban sprawl itself. The favored living arrangement of Americans has now become their economy too. If you subtract sprawl building and the home builders and the building of strip malls and the building of big box stores and all this stuff, if you subtract that from the economy, there isn't a whole lot left besides fried chicken and haircuts and open heart surgery. Okay, so once that starts to wobble, maybe we're not going to have such a hot economy when that happens. So you can see how all these things are starting to sort of affect each other.